But yes, let's make that happen. Coming up, we're having there was a article. I'm going to try to pull it up. In low that ran in Lohud this week. Dealing with Greenburgh, dealing with the Greenburgh sign, the Black Lives Matter sign. I'm gonna try to actually let me see if I can pull something up real quick. While I'm waiting, if you'll bear with me, having a rally coming up this week. Oops. I might be able to pull the video up of one of our guests, Cliff Earl Abrams, from the Lohud, from the Lohud article. There was a video that ran with it, and I'm gonna see if I can pull it up. I found it on my phone. I'm trying to find it on my computer and see if I can bring it up. Let me just send myself a link. See if I can bring that up. Hold on. I think that would be good. So the article, basically the title of the article, first off, was Greenburgh Black Lives Matter sign removed from gateways into the town. It's a very strong article. One I'm not used to seeing dealing with topics like this in Lohud, so I applaud them and the author. I believe was Eduardo. I don't remember his last name. For addressing this, I'm going to see it one more time if I can pull up this video. Let's see if we can pull up this video. Lohud. Greenburgh. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna work on pulling this video up. I don't want to have dead air on here while I do, but it was a very good interview, and I wanted to do a follow up to it because of some of the stuff that it had discussed. I see a few of the guests are already here. We have Cliff Earl Abrams, who is. Pull up this video. I think you have something on in the background because I'm hearing a double. Something? Do you have Cliff? Do you have something on in your background? Another phone, and you have two things on. We have Janice King Griffith, who I'd like to welcome to the show, who is the head of the White Plains Greenburgh chapter of the NAACP. But I don't want to. I'm hearing an echo. Cliff is coming from you. I just turned your mic off. I don't know if you have two things on, like your computer and your phone. Do you have two things on? The feedback is coming from you. Also, we have Gina Jackson, who is yeah, she wasn't ready for me to turn her on yet. welcome to the show. Who is a Greenburgh Town Council member, who Black Westchester endorsed in her election, and very very happy to do so. We have some others that are going to. I told them 7:00, so they actually have a few minutes. But Cliff, let me start with you. Let me see if you're. That's next Sunday, October 17th. Yeah, I'm still hearing feedback from you, Cliff, and I'm not sure what it is. If you have two different things on. Janice, let me welcome you to the show. I don't know if I've had a conversation with you. I had many conversations with your predecessor. I had a very good relationship with Lena. She always came out. And when I first came back from Atlanta, we started Black Westchester in 2014. Actually, I didn't know there was any other chapter of the NAACP other than the White Plains Greenburgh, to be honest, because they were the only ones that I see.
Yeah, I don't hear nothing.
Okay, I hear you now, and now everything sounds clear. Can you hear me? Cliff, can you hear me? Cliff, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Cliff? Can you hear me? I don't know. Something's on your end. I don't know what it is because everybody else can hear. I can hear and see everybody else. I can see you. I can hear you, but you can't hear me for some reason. If you can hear
but
me,
I can't hear you.
Yes, I'm not sure why that is. I'm not sure why that is. But
not on my. I hear you on this device I have. I can't hear you on.
Right, and then
I can hear you on the other device, but I can't hear you on the thing I'm taping from.
Okay, so what are you using?
Yeah,
your
I
laptop?
can't hear you.
You're using your
okay. I hear you now.
Okay, now I need you to turn the other thing off. Yeah,
I hear you now, AJ.
Okay, I need you to turn the other thing off. One of the things have to go off. So I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna mute Cliff. Oh, so I was saying, Janice, I just wanted to welcome you to the show, and this is my first real talk since you've taken over.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you well.
Okay, all right.
And Gina, give me a mic check real quick. Let's just.
Mic check 1, 2, AJ.
Yep, sounds good. Sounds good. There you go. There you go. So yes, I'm looking forward to working with you. I had a relationship, like I said, with Lena, mostly because of Damon's relationship to Greenburgh.
Right.
And he was a member of the chapter. So
yes.
Every time he spoke, I brought the campus.
He was very valuable to us. We miss him.
Oh, okay. Well, we miss him here in Mount Vernon too. He'd have moved up.
Yeah, I know. And I bought his book, and I'm ready to support him, and I'm so excited. So,
well, I'm sure he'll be glad to hear that. He had a very successful his first book signing today. At Calvary Church. It was very successful.
Okay. I'm looking forward to getting him on the NAACP show. Getting him on a forum so he can talk about his book. So I got to reach out to him.
Absolutely. If you have any problem connecting, please let me know and I will help make that happen.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So let me see if we got Cliff back. Cliff. I'm still hearing the echo. I'm going to need you to turn one thing off, either the laptop or whatever you're speaking into. You might have to turn that volume off and turn the other volume on, because right now we're getting the feedback. We're getting that. And I see there's somewhat of a delay.
But I can't hear you talking for some odd reason. I don't know what I need to do.
Try turning off the device you're talking into, and whatever you're holding, turn that volume on. You have to have one on or the other. Both on is causing the feedback. And I've had you on the show before. We never had this problem before. I don't know what that is. So I really wanted him to kick it off because there was an article that he spoke that they interviewed him, and it had to do with he being a member of the Black Lives Matter committee. And I said in the beginning of the show, and I'll start over again. So one, I want to applaud the town of Greenburgh, because the sign "All Lives Can't Matter Until Black Lives Matter" was the boldest statement made in the county. Yonkers, of course, was first to put a mural around City Hall, and I think some other municipalities are following or have followed. But the phrase "All lives can't matter until Black lives matter," which was a very bold statement, and obviously it ruffles some feathers. And I just want to say, in the beginning of the show, no one is saying Black lives matter more. No one is saying that anybody else's lives do not matter. And every time we say Black lives matter and someone says, "Oh, well, all lives matter," all lives obviously do not matter if Black lives don't matter. That's why that was such a bold statement. And people have a problem with just the statement. You understand what I'm saying? Which is further proof that Black lives don't necessarily matter some places in Westchester County, and nationwide. We see the persons of color killed by the police and the treatment by police departments, and and we see racial discrimination at the workplace, and it's so many different layers. That's why I wanted to have this conversation, because the author basically put in the question, do Black lives really matter in Greenburgh? And I thought, Black Westchester should have that conversation. So that's why I invited all of y'all. I want to give Janice a chance to speak as the head of the NAACP, which is
AJ,
yes.
you have Councilman Ken Jones trying to get in.
I'm getting ready to bring him in now. I see him in the
Okay.
green room, and I'm not sure where everybody else is, but so far, so Councilman, I do see you, and I'm going to bring you in shortly. I'm Janice, as the head of the NAACP, our historic civil rights organization. Where do you see things as far as race in Greenburgh? Again, being one of the wealthiest counties in the country, people don't want to talk about racism, poverty, homelessness, and other things that plague Westchester like it does not exist here. But not talking about it does not make it go away. And being part of the NAACP organization that has been fighting for generations, for hundreds of years. I'm not sure how long you've been around, the exact date, but for over 100 years, I'm sure.
Yes.
I wanted your local representative.
About 112 years, 113 years, something like that.
Right.
Yeah. So, yes, racism does happen in Greenburgh. It is alive and well. It is reflected in just about all areas, housing, education, and of course in criminal injustices. So yeah, it's here. And people think that because it's not loud, it's not blatant, that it's not there, but it is there. And that's our job as the NAACP. We expose these discrimination. We expose racism, and it's there. It's everywhere. And I applaud Cliff for the work that he has done with the Black Lives Matter Committee. That the wording on that sign was genius, and it's very clear, that all lives can't matter until Black lives matter. And, people do have a problem with saying Black lives matter, but that's their problem. We know as Black people that our lives don't matter, and it's evident. It's evident every day. We deal with injustices because we don't matter. So.
Absolutely. Now, I do want to bring in Councilman Ken Jones, who I believe is the uncle of Congressman Mondaire Jones. Is that correct? Did I get that information right?
I am not the uncle of Mondaire Jones, but I certainly appreciate.
Someone told me that you were his.
Held in such company.
Someone told me you were his mother's brother. So I have to go straight to the horse and ask you. That's actually what I heard this week. So,
well, that's a beautiful connection.
I was an early supporter of the congressman in the town of Greenburgh. I through a fundraiser or actually a meet and greet for him early on in the campaign, but I can't claim to be of the same Jones family.
Okay. Now I brought you in because I'm getting ready to bring everybody in a minute, but I wanted the two of you, Councilman Jones and Councilwoman Jackson. So you're in a town, I'm not sure what the racial makeup is of the town, but you are the lone persons of color on this board. I know that sometimes could be unfair because there's no way, there's no way one person or even two can solve. Our problem is so long-standing that you're not going to erase it even in one term. You're not going to be being one of the lone voices in media. We're not Black enough for some people. We're too Black for others, and we're useless to some others. And we're just troublemakers to others. So you know, I can imagine what you must deal with, but I want you to talk about navigating that road of racism, systemic racism, implicit bias that plagues our communities all over the country, but in your city, in your town. How do you navigate that? You can't do everything, but talk about navigating that from your position.
So I'll start off, Ken.
Yes.
So as everyone is aware of, I was elected to the town in November of 2019, started my term in January 2020. I started it and did know that we were going to be part of a big pandemic. So all the things that I had wanted to do, of course, got delayed. But I will say, I want to really say thank you to the opening of what you said, AJ, because, you know, as an elected official, a newly elected official, you know, you take on and you do hear what everyone is saying, and you want to take that magic wand and change everything and make everything right. And really take on that stress of why can't things be different, or why can't, you know, we can really make change. And I had to really think about that, especially with everything that happened with George Floyd, and then just really getting into and delving into and listening and looking at Greenburgh's history, and to seeing what really can I offer, you know, in my turn, to try to address what we do see and we definitely have identified as being an issue. And so what I did start out with is Greenburgh Against Systemic Racism, the task force, you know, looking at law enforcement, housing, healthcare, employment, and education. So we started off with the law enforcement committee. So I wanted to make sure that we did not lose that opportunity, and making sure that we met the mandate of former Governor Cuomo of Executive 02 to Executive 203 to address police reform. So I was glad to at least that people from the community came together, worked together, tireless hours, and put a report together that, you know, to for us to work from and start implementing changes that is definitely been recognized. And there is still ongoing changes that needs to be made in the police department, but it's a work in process as anything is. Also, we have also the housing committee that has been formed. So, you know, we are definitely looking at disparities that's surrounding the housing issue. Actually, Cliff Abrams is a volunteer on that committee as well. And, you know, and there's great work that's coming out of that committee. So we are working now on a report to present to town board to say, out of the research that we have done, we have found areas that definitely need to be addressed. And there are some things that we recognize that we can address immediately. And again, as you stated earlier, there's things that's going to take time. But again, you know, there are vehicles in place to really start addressing or to continue address what we know that is an ongoing issue.
Brother Ken.
You know, as you mentioned, it's difficult to navigate the terrain when we are the only Black members on the town council, and we're faced with years of racism and discrimination in the town, just like in the country as a whole. For me, having been on the town board a little bit longer than Gina, I'm in my second year of my third term. What I've come to realize is that people don't want to talk about these issues of racism in America, of racism in the town of Greenburgh. White people in particular are offended when we as Black people try to bring up racist things that have happened to us. They're incredulous when we tell them what happens to us in the current day and age. My feeling is that the best way to deal with these issues, you know, those who, as you point out, think we're too Black, not Black enough, or just useless, is to keep the conversation going. My goal is to have us all, Black, white, Latino, Asian, everyone in the community, to talk about these issues of racism, because I believe the problem is that we haven't been talking about it, that it's not taught in the schools, that people are able to think we live in a post-racial society because we don't talk about it. So what I like to do is bring it up, talk about it, keep talking about it, keep it in the news, keep it on Black Westchester, because that's the only way we're ever going to move through this stuff. You know, as long as we keep not talking about it and capitulating to the desires of the wider population and thinking, oh, well, you know, I don't want to bring that up because it's not important enough, or I don't want to bring that up because I don't want to ruffle feathers, or I don't want to bring that up because it's uncomfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable. We have to deal with the uncomfortableness. Racism is uncomfortable. And I believe that the best way to deal with it is just to keep the conversation going.
Now, I want to get to Cliff, and I want to bring in our other two guests. I brought this up. Like, I don't know how familiar you are with the show, but the tagline for the show, People Before Politics, is real talk for the community. So, you know, and we play a clip from Malcolm's speech, The Ballad of the Bullet, which ends, you know, and they're not afraid to say it. So we have to say, I specifically asked both of y'all that question because I've heard a lot of various opinions of y'all as council people, many from our own people. So I wanted to give y'all, I'm not sure if y'all have ever been asked that before, so I want to give y'all the opportunity to speak on that. Now, we did invite Town Supervisor Paul Feiner, who is usually good, and let me just say that he's usually good on, even if it's last minute. He said he had some plans to do something with his family or something and couldn't make it. But one of the things I had a problem with in the article, since we were talking about Black Lives Matter and the Black Lives Matter sign and racism towards African Americans, and I don't think this is racism. I think this falls under the implicit bias umbrella. He went into, yes, racism is a problem, and he got anti-Semitic hate mail. And I don't want to demean what the Jewish individuals have gone through, but the conversation was about Black Lives Matter, and far too often, white people that are supposed to be our allies, whether they mean to or not, that's what I put it more under implicit bias than systemic racism, because maybe they don't even know that's what implicit bias is. But you demean, and I felt like it took the shadow off of what we were talking about, the spotlight off what we were talking about. You know what I'm saying? Again, that's like saying Black Lives Matter and white people saying, well, all lives matter. You know, so you know, I felt that, and I wanted to tell him that here and give him a chance to speak on it, but he's not able to be here. I'm going to bring in our other two guests, but I do want to go back now that Cliff has solved the sound problem.
Yes, I did.
I wanted you to talk about, you can hear me good now, right?
Yeah, I hear you crystal.
Okay, I'm going to bring in our other two guests, Lena Anderson, who I spoke highly of, is a longtime advocate, former president of the NAACP, but I wanted her involved because she's been on the front line for a long time, and I think we need to have, you know, we need to have people that have been there before us that's putting in the work. We need to hear from them as we go forward. And Mechelle Brown, who I've got to know recently, who is definitely a firecracker, who is definitely she's definitely ready to set it off all the time. But she's been putting in the work. So I want to welcome both of y'all to the show.
Thank you.
I want to go back to Cliff. Starting out, we weren't able to talk to you in the beginning. You were on. You fought for the signage. You with the Black Lives Matter committee, and you were featured in the interview, a video in the report write up from Lohud. I wasn't able to pull the video up. It's been a busy day, but I wanted you to talk about that a little bit and talk about your experience in fighting for, you know, the signage and the representation of Black Lives Matter in your town.
I appreciate that. You know, I want to say one thing is that Mechelle Brown been keeping the fire, you know, and by her keeping the fire is why the article came, is the reason why we on this show today. But I want to make it crystal clear that Greenburgh always been a racist town. You know, you have Fairview, which is 76% African American. Then you got Hartsdale, Edgemont, Irvington, Ardsley, Doss Ferry, Hastings. They are predominantly white. And so it's been no secret to the people who grew up in Greenburgh that Greenburgh is a racist community in a village, in a town. But like you said, I give respect to the town that they took a lot of guts, that they doing this 3-part project. But what upsets me is that when we had the meeting and the sign was put up, whether it was put up without the permission, but the town of Greenburgh put the sign up and it was big. And I said, wow, I was so happy and I was respectful that the town did it. But within 24 hours, it was torn down. And at our committee meeting, the guy who spotted it and put it on came and said to us, he thought somebody took a chain and ripped it down. And what upsets me is that at the meeting, they had the president of the police union, Eddie DeVito, I think his name is. And this is a guy who 10 years ago got mad at me when I was videotaping him. He had a young black man on Manhattan Avenue in the middle of the street with his hand behind his back while ongoing cars was going, and told me that he was upset that I was videoing him. And so he comes to the meeting and he say, people's upset about the sign and they suggest that racism isn't tolerated here. And I share that it is tolerated here because the signs not back up. And so the town came up with racism isn't tolerated here. But due to people like Mechelle, the NAACP, they kept on pressuring because they wasn't going to put that sign back up. But with the pressure from the community, they end up saying they're going to put both signs up. And the next problem was that after it was a crime, this happened in May, they left part of the crime scene hanging up. And they didn't feel there was no urgency to just take everything down and clean it up. And it was 140 something days, and Mechelle Brown kept that going, And then I finally called up Richard Fahn. He's the commissioner of public work. And I said, hey, Rich, look, people's having a real major problem with that being up. Can you take it down? And he took it down. So what I want to say, so what happened, I don't know if you know about this, AJ, that, and maybe Gina and Ken could explain, somebody was complaining about the sign. So they did a resolution for Israel, Jewish. If you say something, it's a hate crime. And we was upset saying that, how can you deal with Israel and ready to do a resolution on a hate crime if you say anything about Israel or Jewish, which we know is not people, is a religion. But yet we dealing with black on lives. Black lives can't matter. All lives can't matter to Black Lives Matter. And y'all ain't making anti-Blackism a resolution as a hate crime. And so this is what we've been going back and forth with, that really upsets me. And when we talk to Paul and Lena's here and Michelle's here, and they could explain more, but it's just a disgrace that the town, and when I look at it, like, there's no sense of urgency. And then when I see 2 African Americans on the board and only take 3 votes to change anything, and I understand things take time, but time is over with. It's been 400 years of giving breaks and giving time. And anytime something happens when it comes to the Black race, it's always be calm, wait your turn, be patient. Now we're not being patient no more, and we're going to fight this hard.
I don't want to stay on this and do go back and forth.
Okay.
I like to cover a lot of territory and give our other 2 speakers a chance to speak. But I do want to give our 2 council members a chance to respond briefly, if you can, if you would like, to Mr. Abrams' comments, since they were directed kind of towards y'all about not feeling that, I don't. Well, you heard what he said, so I'm just, if you would like to briefly speak on it.
Well, Gina, do you want to go first?
No, go ahead, because you have, I mean, a reason why I'm going to defer to Ken first, because Ken is the chair of the Black Lives Matter committee. So I know he has the history and what was discussions and what the timelines and everything. So I guess he can, bring light to that. So.
And again, and since we're trying to get a lot in at a little bit of time,
Totally.
as brief as possible, but I want to give you a chance.
The reason that the signs haven't gone back up just yet is multifaceted. None of it is because there was opposition in the community to the signs. One of the reasons that all lives can't matter until Black Lives Matter is going to go back up is in fact because of the conversations we had with the venerable NAACP and the Human Rights Advisory Commission of the town of Greenburgh. And we are going to put those signs back up. We wanted to put, as Cliff mentioned, this is a three-part Black Lives Matter signage effort. It involves banners being created by students that are going to go on municipal buildings and on school buildings. It involves the mural that Cliff is spearheading, and it involves these signs that we're talking about. And one of the things we wanted to do, the committee wanted to do to make the biggest impact is to unveil all three at the same time with a press conference and a Q&A. And so in order to do that, we need to be adequately prepared on all three fronts. Now we have applied, we have applied for grant funding for the mural. So we're gonna have to wait till we get the grant funding to do that. But in an effort to move things more quickly, we have come up with a plan to unveil coming soon at the mural. We're going to hang the banners and we're going to put the signs back up, but we're waiting for, IDA came through and the banners weren't able to get completed as quickly as we wanted them to. The security is, the Greenburgh Police Department is working on security to protect the signs, both to guard against future vandalism, and if vandalism occurs, to catch the vandals should they tear down the signs again. So we're now in a holding pattern, waiting for the banners to be completed and waiting for the proper security apparatus to be put into place so we can do that. As soon as that happens, it's going to go back up.
And real briefly, I want to, one of the things Mr. Abrams said was that the legislation or whatever about, I don't know what I'm not there, so I'm only going by what I'm hearing about Israel or Jewish or whatever, that being a hate crime, and this and other things that are happening in the Black community not being considered a hate crime, especially by two African Americans that represent us on the board. So if one of y'all want to speak to that briefly.
Well, I certainly think it's a hate crime. Gina?
Yes, it definitely is a hate crime. I think so. Can we let's just go back, and this is not Ken and I being defensive, but let's just go back. The resolution that was posted on the agenda, which has now been pulled because it's not going forward right at this minute. They delayed it just because, well, I'll get to that in a second. That was a resolution that Supervisor Feiner was looking to introduce. That was nothing that we were voting on. That was something to say that he, and I'm not sure, he and someone else from the Jewish community was working on to put forward. That didn't say that any of us, and I know personally, I have not responded to the language in that resolution because I just didn't think it was correct. And clearly from what we both are seeing from the traffic of our emails, that there are Jewish organizations also feel the same. So I think, if we're really, so we was not pushing to put this resolution out. And it is very frustrating that, I don't want us to get blocked. And this is clearly that I thought that was happening, that we get blindsided by any of I guess, distractions, if you will, we are still moving forward. We are still making sure that the security is going to be there for the signage, that the sign is going to go up. It's frustrating that, yes, it has not gone up and as quickly as we had wanted for it to go up, but we are not passing any resolution because it is not completely fully baked. And there are some issues internally, and when I say internally within the Jewish community, that they have concerns with too. So we can't support something that not everyone is very supportive of in that aspect. I will say this really quickly, AJ, that, you know, I tend to work, whereas I want to make sure that I have something to produce. I am, and Councilman Jones is not even aware of it, though, that I am working on a resolution as it relates to racism. There was something I had previously. I did have conversations earlier with two leaders of Greenburgh Human Rights Committee and NAACP. Thank you, Janice. You know, so we've had discussions, and how do we put a resolution in place that is inclusive, but make sure that we clearly define who we're referring to, because I don't want it to be is that it's inclusive and then we get lost in that. So it's important that we are clearly defined.
I'm going to go to Lena, but before I do, and Mechelle, I didn't forget about you, and I thank you for being patient. I a lot of people approach me from various different people or groups or whatever. One of the complaints, and this is for Mr. Jones, Ms. Jackson, and also President Griffith. There are Black people, African Americans in the community that felt that y'all who represent us in the community were silent when the sign came down. They felt like, the NAACP hadn't heard a peep from the NAACP, and the two council people representing them, like, where were you when we, you know, and like, why are we not hearing from you? And if I could get, you know, briefly from Janice and at least one of y'all, and then I'm going to go to Lena about, you know, I want to move on, but I want to give y'all a chance to address that. Thank you for asking that question.
The NAACP has been criticized by many people for many years. We're always going to be criticized. We can't please everyone, but we were on it as soon as we found out. We were working with Paul Feiner about putting it back up. We were working with other communities. We were writing letters. You know, some people don't know what we do, but they don't come to our meetings. They don't want to get involved. But because we're not loud about it, they seem to think we're not doing anything, which is so far from the truth. We were on it right away. We wrote letters. We were at meetings. We spoke up. I spoke to somebody on Channel 12. So, you know, I always say you're not going to please everyone, but the people who come to the meetings, who want to be involved, they see what we're doing. So we were on it right away as soon as we got word.
Do you think that I know dealing with Mount Vernon, I've been heavy in Yonkers, a little bit in New Rochelle. I'm starting to get more involved in Greenburgh. Stuff sometimes does not trickle down to the average person in the community. Do you think that maybe the NAACP can do more in town forums and drawing people that maybe are not members to, you know, to have discussions like this? Or we can always do more. There's always room for improvement, and we're always looking for ways to improve and include the community. We advertise in the paper that we're having meetings. It's on our website. It's on our Facebook page. Word of mouth. We would love for people to get involved and help us. We have a very small group of members that are doing all the work, but we always have a lot of people saying what we're not doing. And it's just not true. They need to, you know, I don't know how we can reach out and get more. I'm sure if you know, let me know. But, you know, we're always encouraging people to join us, to come on board, to come to the meetings. I don't know what else we can do. You know, I wanted either one or the other, Mr. Jones or Mr. Jackson, to answer that. Again, there were people in the African American community felt that the two members of the board they didn't hear a peep from, and you were silent, and they were upset about that.
Again, and to Janice, it's like there are things that we do and that, you know, it doesn't get out, or people think that we're not doing anything. And then there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that is being done. And again, unfortunately, does not get the traction as things that, if it appeared, that don't get done. We have been working to make sure that there are things in place, like, you know, security, and making sure that there are other things in place, so this type of incident does not happen again. And that, you know, we're on it. But, you know, I'm not going to go back into that because we've already addressed that. And I will take that criticism, if you will, and it's constructive, that, you know, I have to do better being louder, you know, and what I'm doing and getting out there and resurrecting something that I had started when I first got into office, you know. But things just, you know, the responsibilities grow. And it kind of took me away from that, which is, unfortunately, you know, it's hurtful because it appears that I'm not doing anything, and there's so much that I am doing that's not getting the traction as it should. So I take that from the community, that I have to be more vocal, if you will, I guess, or I'll just say more louder, if you will, so you know that things are being done.
I thank you for that. Now I want to switch to Lena.
Good evening, AJ.
Yes, a person who has supported Black Westchester when it was just a thought, from Damon and myself, who has always been there, who I want to speak. You've been on the front line a little longer than some of us, and I wanted to speak from a historical point, you know, what you've seen. We're talking about systematic racism and implicit bias in the towns of Greenburgh and even White Plains. And if you could just speak, you know, a little bit on that right now.
Okay, let's stay there, because the NAACP is a huge organization. Everybody on this call is a member. Mm-hmm. And yet, when you're speaking, very few of you say, I am a member, or the NAACP agrees with me, or I am also supporting the NAACP. We're looking to them as well. I think we don't mouth off our organization, and it's our organization. And everybody has to do a better job of that. I think what happens is, it isn't so much we're working behind the scenes, we're working. And one of the things I remember, Gina, when you were running for office, you came to our meetings, you took notes, and out of that, I believe, grew your task forces, because you had one in all the game changer areas for the NAACP. And we needed to hear that. We needed the people who joined your task force to also feel that they should join the NAACP. It takes the community to keep our organization alive. And I think the conscientiousness that we bring to that is very important. We recently had a New York State conference, and one of the things we regularly do, aside from regular membership meetings, are regional meetings, state meetings, national meetings. These are all very informative settings with people who are really grassroots people in the trenches doing very important work. So I want to commend you, Gina, on the task force that you created in all these areas. And I want to suggest that you follow up in a way that lets them know the NAACP was the foundation for that thinking, and that we all need to be behind this organization. Now, as you talk about the specific issues going on in Greenburgh, I'm going to yield to Janice, because one of the things we've done is we kick the door down and everybody climbs over us going through it. And our Jewish brothers are no less guilty. So I know that conversations with Paul Feiner are usually very friendly, and, you know, he has a good heart as a person. But in terms of pushing policy and pushing the envelope, I think we all have to shove it at Paul. He's been in leadership in Greenburgh for a very long time, and very little has changed in favor of the African-American community. As you're saying, we are most represented in Fairview, but there's no reason for that other than systemic racism. Why aren't we living in Hartsdale, Ardsley, all the other places with the same numbers? Well, it's not such a detailed thing to look at. There are all kinds of discriminatory practices, redlining, not letting us see homes, not letting us buy homes in certain areas, saying that they were already sold when they weren't. There's always been a pattern and practice that kept us relegated to the Fairview area. Ken, you're right. That's what we don't talk about. I think we have to keep it on the front burner, that not only is there systemic racism, this pattern and practice has gone on for years. And we're at a point now, we're at a crossroads where everyone has to realize that we got to get on the same page. We got to get on the same page together. So I'm happy for this program, AJ. I'm happy that you can bring us all together and we can really share a conversation. I commend both Gina and Ken for educating the other members of the board, because as they try to get along with them, I met with Gina when we opened up the CHI facility in Mayfair, and she brought along with her Mr. Sheehan. Not necessarily a friendly face for the Black community, but I think he learned at that event that there are people in need. There are homeless people in need of homes. There's a whole population of elderly people who really need to feel a friend in Greenburgh, a place in Greenburgh for them. So thank you for that, Gina.
I can't so I just want to say that I can't take the credit for him showing up because he came on his own accord.
That's because you're educating him.
Hey, AJ, can I say something real fast? I just want to say, it take me 1 minute, less than that, 20 seconds. I just wanted to say that Ardsley, I went to an event in Ardsley of Black Lives Matter. And do you know that Ardsley never had a Black police officer? And Diane Jettner is represent Ardsley, and she's on our board. And that need to be talked about, because Ardsley is a major part of Greenburgh. And for them to never had a Black officer, and I talked to the chief, and he gave me his card and told him if I know somebody who wanted to transfer, because I told him that how can the whole history of Ardsley never had a Black police officer? I just wanted to put that on record. Thank you.
I'm not surprised. I mean, Mount Vernon is the only municipality in Westchester with a Black police commissioner. I mean, I think most people don't know that. Lena, so, like I said, being on the front line for a while, how did you feel when you first saw that they had a sign up that was bold and said all lives cannot matter until Black Lives Matter? And how did you feel when it was torn down and not replaced right away?
I was elated. I really wasn't present when they put it up, but I knew it went up. And then it sort of came down almost the same day. But I want you to know our president was on the news. She's on Channel 12 News speaking out on that matter. And it wasn't that the NAACP wasn't aware. We immediately were working and calling and asking that the sign be put back up. So the sluggishness, and you know what? It didn't have to be a nice, pristine sign that went back up. Even now, we just want to sign up. If you keep tearing it down, that's the pattern we'll go after.
We put a resolution together. We came up with a resolution that we handed to Paul Feiner about that Black Lives Matter sign. So we were on it.
I want to give her a chance to speak. She hasn't spoke yet. Mechelle Brown, who one of the things I was when we were talking about this, and she kept a running count every day on Facebook. It has been X amount of days, and the sign has not been. It's been X amount of days. I think we got to about 140 days before there was before the polls were even removed, and now we're somewhere around 150 days. But she relentlessly kept a count, like to make sure it was in everybody's face. Look, it's been 143 days and blah blah blah. It's been 100 and something days, and I just want to give her a chance to speak and talk about that, because that was what kept me in the loop of what was going on.
AJ, I want to give Mechelle kudos and let y'all know that she is an NAACP pit bull.
Yes, I am. Hoorah!
Not only is she in it, but she says that she's representing the NAACP. People may not want to hear it. She's collaborating with the human rights group, but she's ours. Yeah. Go ahead, Mechelle.
Hey, hi, Lena. Thank you. Yes, 150 days today, actually. And again, the Black Lives Matter sign, it's for us, but it's not for us. We're Black people. We know our lives matter. And I hear what the council people are saying, right? but it took 140 days to get the site cleaned up. And as Black people, I think Black people should know carnage when they see it, right? And that was carnage. I mean, it was like, you know, a news singer from a tree without a body. People had to drive past there every day and know that there was a crime committed, a hate crime that does not want Black people in that community. And to this day, you know, I get the whole hoopla and you need cameras or whatever. You know, I get what you're saying. However, you know, the message we're sending is that racism is tolerated in Greenburgh. It shouldn't take 150 days to put up a sign that's been made, you know, that's made in house. It shouldn't take 140 days to clean up carnage, but it did, right? And again, the sign's not going back up against the pole. It's going to go on the ground in front of the Welcome to Greenburgh sign. That's the thing. But, you know, I think that's a problem. I think having a celebration, you know, about a hate crime is a problem, right? I mean, if you want to celebrate the mural and you want to celebrate your banners, I mean, I don't know, but I don't think you should have any unveiling at that site at all. That site is a scene of a hate crime for Black people, against Black people. And I don't think there should be a celebration about that at all. And I don't understand why there could even be an idea that there would be. Additionally, that anti-Semitism resolution that was presented by Paul Feiner came from the Black Lives Matter sign. And he said that himself. This is all intertwined. And it shouldn't be a hot topic that anti-Semitism is taking precedent over a movement that's been moving, at least on the sign, for 150 days. I don't understand why that happens. I guess the town board can answer that. I want to know what you think about the anti-Semitism resolution that's being presented. And I'd like to understand what you think about having a celebration at a hate crime scene and how it could take 150 days to have a sign put back on the ground.
Can I just say, AJ?
Yes, briefly, yes.
That I applaud Mechelle for keeping the tragedy around the sign on social media and in the news. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You know, this is keeping the conversation alive. You know, 400 years we've been fighting, you know, racism in America. You know, we need to talk about it. And the fact that the sign was torn down and we're still talking about it and it hasn't been put back up and people are, you know, vary in their responses to it not having been put back up. This is all good stuff. You know, this is all the things that we need to be talking about internally within our own community, the Black community, and including the wider community, you know, including everyone. And by people like Mechelle and Cliff and Janice and the NAACP and the Human Rights Commission, you know, both of which I'm members of, keeping talking about what's going on, you know, it's moving closer to other people understanding what we go through every day and our everyday experiences. And that's what I believe is necessary in order to make some traction against the beast that is racism.
Respectfully, Ken, all due respect, conversation is not action. This is an actionable item. This is something that takes 3 votes to change. You're 2 of them, you and Gina. It's a Black issue. You're Black. Your family's Black. You come from Black people. We don't need to talk about what happens. You're old enough to know what happens. You're there because of the NAACP. If they didn't stand up 100 and some odd years and fight for what they fought for, you couldn't even be where you're sitting right now. What conversation do you need? Really? There shouldn't be a conversation. You should know. And if you don't, here we go. I'm telling you, it's carnage. It should not be celebrated. Anti-Semitism is horrible. Human rights is everything, and I support that. However, we're talking about a Black Lives Matter movement right now. And I would like to know why it takes 150 days to get a sign put back on the ground and why an anti-Semitism resolution triggers a Black Lives Matter potential resolution against anti-Blackism, Gina. Now, when you've been there over a year, you're Black, you know that there's problems there. Why does it take anti-Semitic a resolution to trigger you saying now you're writing something? And Ken, why does it take 150 days to get a sign put back on the ground? And why do you want a celebration over that? Those are my questions. I don't understand.
Let me
Mechelle, I just want to answer. So again, Mechelle, like I mentioned, I don't want to do anything that is not fully baked. I want to make sure things is right. So yes, I dragged my feet on it, but that resolution that I was working on, I've always been working on it, and I just wanted to make sure it was done right. So again, it could be timing. Maybe I just say let it go and then make sure it's right. But again, I want to make sure it's right because I know that we sometimes, and it shouldn't be this way, that we only really have that one time. So if we're going to put something on the street, that I want to make sure that it's on the street and then it's impactful and it has meaning, that it's just not something, and it's just not a bunch of words on a piece of paper. So it did not take the anti-Semitic resolution to start that. This was all brewing on, even as I was trying to figure out how to roll out the Greenburgh Against Systemic Racism. So again, that's me personally being delayed, and again, that wanting to make sure that it is correct.
I wanted to ask one question real quick. Dealing with one thing Mechelle said that I was confused. So I know where the sign was, and I know how the sign was positioned under the Greenburgh sign. She said something about now the sign is going to be on the ground or something. It's not going to go back where it was. So I just wanted to speak specifically to that.
No, there two signs are going up. One that says all lives can't matter until Black Lives Matter, and the other that says racism will not be tolerated here. The racism will not be tolerated here sign is going to be attached to the post that is holding up, one of the posts that's holding up the Welcome to Greenburgh sign at all 3 entry points to the town and in front of Town Hall. And the other sign, All Lives Can't Matter Until Black Lives Matter, is going to be put on a steel post that is cemented to the ground directly adjacent to the Welcome to Greenburgh sign, so that it is harder for people to pull down.
I want to. We have very little time left, and we could talk about issues and keep going back and forth. I want to see if there what I would like to hear. What can we do moving forward to tackle some of these issues from the NAACP point of view, from the town council point of view, from the advocates? What can we do to work together? We obviously have a whole lot of stuff we're trying to handle, and we can't get everything done. But what can we do moving forward to start working together, and more importantly, to educate the community and let them know that what's being done and bring them involved? And lastly, what, if anything, can Black Westchester do to assist in this?
I mean, as I mentioned earlier, AJ, that I have to resurrect my newsletter and get out to talk about the things that we are doing around the town, and including, the things that, we want to push forward. So, and moving forward, I need to do that. I need to do a better way. I need to do better in communicating with the community more, and, and not just take for granted that, they see the actions that's being happened, because sometimes action is not clear. So I need to do better in making sure that I'm communicating more.
AJ, one thing I think is needed is that when the Black people come to the town board meeting and we complain about issues of housing or the Black Lives Matter, and when Paul don't want to hear it no more, he just shut the meeting down. But yet they could talk about leaf blowers, and he allowed everybody who's white to explain and express themselves, and it take 2 hours. But he feel when we talk about anything when it comes to our concerns, he just could shut the meeting down, and Gina and Ken's on the board, and I think it's so disrespectful to us. And I want to say this real quick, that I was at the meeting when the guy came back and told us about the sign. And I am the one who called News 12 before Janice got on it. They asked me to speak on it. But at that time, I was giving Tasha Young a fundraiser as she was running for town supervisor, so I couldn't come. So I blew the whistle. I called it activists. I called certain people up to let them know what was happening, because out of 8 votes, I was the only vote that was on the committee that said to put the sign rate back up. I just want to put that on record. Thank you.
Janice, from the NAACP perspective, what can we do more to maybe work together more to combine our efforts to get the word out to tackle this issue moving forward?
I think it's very important that we as Black people stick together. I think when there's division and between ourselves, it gives them an opening. So we need to communicate just like we're doing tonight. I think we definitely need a part 2, maybe a part 3 of this conversation. But like Mechelle said, we need it's going to take action. But we need to all be on the same page. We should all be looking for the same thing. We should all be looking to end racism in Greenburgh, in White Plains. So I think that when there's tension and division between us, that creates a problem. We need to talk more with each other and stand up to Paul together. You know, we need to stand up to Paul together and work with each other. The NAACP is a huge national organization. We're powerful, but we need the community, our Black people, to stand up there with us, you know, to say, this is what we want. We want the sign back up, you know, and the NAACP is big on pushing the community to vote for the people who are going to give us what we want, who are listening to us. So we make it really clear. We give candidates forums. We make our members aware of the candidates that are not supporting us, because that's how we win fights at the polls. So,
I want to just add to what you just said. I think differences of opinions are good. I think hearing from other perspectives are good, who we don't all think the same way and move in the same direction. But I think what I would like to see, and again, I don't have a horse in this race internally, but as a Black man in Westchester County, I do. Because what happens, when I keep telling you, what happens in Greenburgh affects us in Mount Vernon. What happens in Mount Vernon affects them in New Rochelle and Yonkers. So I do on that level. I would like to see, if at all possible, that this forum amongst yourselves, and I can be a third party if necessary, and I don't need to be, is held behind closed doors, and more of the hashing out and more of the differences of opinion. Like, I don't agree with a lot of people who I move with. I don't think they move fast enough. I think they do things that I don't think they think about, you know, but I think we need to have those conversations behind closed doors. And then when we move as one together. Like I said, what can Black Westchester do to assist in any of this?
right.
You understand what I'm saying? And I think I would like to see more of that. And and not just a Greenburgh thing, but what I find out in most communities, information is not trickling down to the regular person. So they're like, nothing's going on. So it's easy to say, oh, Gina and Ken are not saying that. Oh, the NAACP ain't doing nothing because I ain't heard nothing from them. It's easy to say that because they don't know. You know what I'm saying? And Gina, one person said, thank you, Councilman Gina Jackson, for holding yourself accountable. I think one of those things that can be done is from our council people is articulating what you need to articulate to your electorate, to the people a little bit more. I know you can't, you know, if you got things in works, you can't say everything, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, just and making it more about letting them be more involved more. You know what I'm saying? And I think that would help a lot. And I want to say to everybody who's watching, I say this as far as every situation is concerned. Politics is a participatory sport. You cannot vote and then go to sleep for 4 years and then come back up again and expect things to be done. Like the people have a responsibility. And in our community, the people are not moving on that enough. Cliff said that, I don't know if this is true, but Cliff said that Paul Feiner, who's one vote, can just shut down a meeting. I know in Mount Vernon, you can't just shut down a meeting like that. There has to be a vote on that. Like, you just can't shut down a meeting. You understand what I'm saying? So other groups of people outside of us wouldn't tolerate that. Like, no, you're going to hear us out no matter what. And it's going to take our voices, not just the NAACP and our elected officials, but those in the community is going to take your voice. You have to, to quote Obama, you have to be the change that you want to see. You have a responsibility. In any walk of life, and Lena, you can co-sign this one, and anything, if you look in our history, nothing has been given to us because it was the right thing to do. It was because we fought and we stood and we wouldn't take it no more. We wouldn't be allowed to vote if we were still waiting for them to give it to us to vote, and they trying to take it back. You know what I'm saying? We wouldn't be allowed to sit where we went on the bus, and we were waiting for them to do the right thing by us.
But still trying to take it back.
Right. Or the vote, yes, the vote. They're trying to take it back. They're trying to take back a lot of rights, and not just from person of color, from everybody who's just not a white man right now. Like they're messing with Roe v. Wade.
Roe versus Wade.
Yeah, they're messing with that right now, and this is just the beginning. You know what I'm saying? So we as a people have to wake up. You know what I'm saying? And this is just. And I want to put that
AJ, can I interject on what you're saying in terms of coming together? Because the NAACP, Janice, I'll spill the beans a little bit. We're interested in starting a think tank. We're going to be asking organizations to join us and to have a think tank that comes together with our politicians and that has a discussion on the needs of our people and how to strategize before the next election. So if you're interested, if you're listening and you represent an organization and you want to be part of the think tank, please contact us. Contact Janice Griffith or contact AJ and he'll get in touch with us. But this is almost urgent that we begin the process of having a regular meeting think tank in which we discuss our issues among each other behind closed doors, and we drive a strategy that's consistent and uniform.
Absolutely. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. And I used to say this about Democrats, and I got to say this about Black people now. Black people is the only army that kills its wounded. you know, seriously, like every army, military is like, leave no man behind, but we kill our wounded. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, we have to find ways, and there's nothing wrong. Like, people might say that Ken is not outspoken enough, or even I've heard, don't speak up enough, and maybe not even Black enough. Those are things I actually heard. So no disrespect, but I mean, I've actually heard those things. People might think Mechelle just is too rough around the edges, too upfront, too, whatever. But, we need, and we behind closed doors, it's okay to be that. But at some point, and I'm not speaking just to the people here, because I understand when I have these conversations, I'm speaking to a whole lot of people that we can't see right now, and who are going to watch this later. We have to learn to agree to disagree. I work with a lot of people who I do not agree with. I work with some people I just downright don't like, but their interests happen to be the same with me on certain issues, and I work with them. But I think they're useless for everything else. I mean, but I still won't. If their interests is aligned with mine for that issue, I will work with them on that issue, regardless. And we have to.
I think transparency has to be a thing.
Transparency has to
be
a thing.
Period. As an elected official, you have to be transparent. And I don't, what you're doing behind closed doors, that's great, but I think that your community that you're servicing, that you're working for, that you're voted in by, needs to know your movements. And it's not enough to have conversation. It's enough to have action. And it's great for you to take, personal responsibility, but you need to understand your role when you go to be elected, that you have to understand that there's responsibility. I mean, and I'm not saying that is bad. I'm not saying that is good. I'm saying that there are things that have urgency, and there are things that we need to get done. And we need you guys to get it done. You were voted in because we asked for an equitable space for Black people. So you're there. So you have to listen to the space that's been created for you. And excusism is a thing amongst our people. And reasons why not is a thing amongst our people. You know, and you have to understand that you would not be there if people like the NAACP or communities didn't exist. And I'm sorry, you not understanding, you not knowing is not what's saving us right now. And you not saying what's happening. It's not saving us right now. 150 days, sign still down.
I agree that we have to work together. We do need transparency. Again, I stand by that. We need to fight amongst yourself. And that's what I'm talking about. That's what I mean when I say behind closed doors. Some of that needs to happen behind closed doors, because if I can see that Gina's not doing this and she's being attacked by just this one, and I can see Janice is being attacked by this one, and I'm the enemy and I'm on the other side, it's easy for me to pick y'all off and divide y'all quicker.
Exactly.
By, talking in your ear and talking in your ear. We
Right.
need to have these conversations behind closed. This is good. This is good right now.
Or disrespecting people who's out there advocating and not listening.
Right.
That,
I agree,
just don't leave
Cliff.
that out.
100%.
Just don't leave that out, AJ.
Right.
That's
Absolutely.
important.
It has to be mutual respect for what everybody does.
For sure.
Everybody has a role to play.
Mhm.
Damon and I started Black Westchester. Damon's Mr. Press conference on the go. He pulls a podium out his back out the trunk of his car, and he have a press conference on the corner right here if he wants to. He does a lot of things that I don't move in those ways. So I can't be Damon Jones. I got to be the best AJ I can be. I'm a writer. Damon's not a writer. That's the way I feel my role. But the reason we're successful is because we respect each other's roles, and we respect what each other do, and we support each other, all the way. We need to do that as a community. We have our differences. We have different ways of seeing things. That's what makes us a beautiful people. I don't want to work with a whole bunch of people who only think the way I think and see the way I see. I don't want a room full of people like that, because I can't grow. You know what I'm saying? And you miss so much more on the outside. There's just so we need that. But I hope that, again, this is not a conversation that could be solved in an hour. I tried my best to give everyone equal, or at least a space to speak. I hope that the differences that maybe some people heard from some other people in ways they may not have heard from them before, and they receive it. I hope that I created a space where people can receive that information from each other, and I hope this helps move the conversation and the movement that you are all involved in forward. I thank you all for taking the time to do this. Lena, I have a long history with. Cliff, I've known for a while. Gina, I know. Janice, I'm just getting ready to know. Brother Ken, don't know me from Adam, so I really appreciate you being here. You know what I'm saying? Like, you were like, no. Another, again, disclosure, Paul Finer, since his name was mentioned, was invited. And I do say in our 7 years, 9 times out of 10, when invited, he appears. And when I need quotes in, I need him to talk about difficult situations, whether I agree with his answers, he does respond. So he's not here today. He was invited. This is not a just beat up Paul Finer session, and he wasn't invited. He was invited. He had a family obligation that he was not able to be here, but he has committed that if we do a part 2, that he would definitely be part of it. And I want that being said, again, for full disclosure, again, like Mechelle said, transparency. I think we need more transparency. But I believe, though, I've heard some good stuff here. I'm hoping that we can move forward together, and anything I can do behind the scenes, out front, whatever, please utilize me. Anything that I can help to make situations better for Black people in Greenburgh or anywhere else in Westchester, please call me and utilize me. Briefly, 30 seconds or less. I'm going to start from the top and go through Cliff, then Janice, then Lena, then Brother Ken, then Sister Gina, and then Mechelle. 30 seconds or less, last words. Brother Cliff.
I just want us, I think what you said at a think tank and behind closed door, I'm open for that. But I'm also want people that's in position of power, and it appears that when Blacks are in position of power, they deal with Black issue with a white perspective. And it's a saying I heard called SOS, setting our standards. You know, we try to solve so many of our problems with white rules, and we play political correct, and political correct only work for white folks, you know? And we have so many blacks that's in positions. I mean, I look at the county legislators, I'm like, wow, it's a whole bunch of them. And we need the black mayors and legislators to start thinking and as setting our standards. You know, let's set our standards, let them come to us instead of always trying to solve our problem with their issues. Thank you. And their perspective.
Sister Janice.
I just want to say thank you for bringing us together. It was an eye-opener, and I want to continue the conversation, and hopefully everybody on this call will renew their membership and stay involved with the NAACP, because we are stronger together and we can get a lot more accomplished if we stand up together. And Black Lives Matter, so we have to stand up together.
Absolutely. Sister Lena.
I'm going to ditto my president.
Okay. Quick and straight to the point. Brother Ken.
I want to thank you, AJ, for holding this forum. And I, too, look forward to part 2 and part 3 of this forum, and to working with the NAACP and their think tank, and continuing to work with the Human Rights Advisory Commission at the town of Greenburgh to make sure that we do at the town level try to address these issues as they come up. And I look forward to continuing to work with Cliff and Mechelle to make sure that these issues remain in the forefront and remain part of the conversation moving forward. Thank you again, AJ.
Thank you. Sister Gina.
Well, Councilman said a lot that I was going to say, but I will just say thank you so much, AJ, again, for allowing us to come together and speak. You know, I do understand there can be times that we agree to disagree, but I will say that I am confident that we all are on the same page. And at the end of the day, we all want the same result. How we get there, you know, maybe not agreed upon, but I think at the end of the day that we will get there. This is definitely hard work. And as hard as it is to, you know, again, to hear, you know, when you're working hard and people may not see it or may not recognize it, you know, continue to remind, but do know, have a place in your mind that know that work is being done. And again, I do welcome to continue to work with everybody. You know, thank you to Mechelle and to Cliff for the input that they are giving on the Greenburgh Against Systemic Racism Housing Committee. They've done, they brought a lot of great work there. I'm happy that they are on the team, you know, because this is a lot, there's a lot to be done. You know, this was a very interesting first 2 years, and I haven't made it completely 2 years, and it's learning as you go. And when I say learning, there's mistakes along the way. Anytime you take a new role and everything, you know, you may have an idea of how things should go, but you have to learn the process, and you have to make sure that you move strategically and that it's definitely going to be impactful. So I will continue to work hard. I will continue to fight, and I welcome to be a part of. I am fully paid up. My dues are paid, so I'm fully paid up in NAACP. And, you know, I invite not only everyone to continue to join NAACP, but please come out and join Greenburgh Against Systemic Racism. We are doing work, you know, but again, it takes time, and I appreciate everyone's support and effort.
Who else? Sister Mechelle, my bell. That's Beatles, Slick Rick. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
On a remix. I want to thank you, AJ and Ken and Gina, and Lena and Janice and Cliff, or Earl, as I call him, because this is necessary, and it is hard work. And I know we could be doing anything else tonight, but we're not. We're here trying to come to an understanding and communicate and hear and listen and learn. So I appreciate that. And I respect you all, contrary to what people might perceive of me. And I'm here because Black lives do matter to me, and so does my community. I grew up in Tarrytown, and it means a lot to me. That it stays the way it is, and I'm going to fight and do what I have to do and, you know, show up and make sure that we're heard. So thanks again for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
I want to say in closing, what I found out, being the editor of Black Westchester has allowed me to move in many different circles of many different groups that think many different things, including groups that don't look like us, that don't care about us. But when it comes to us, what I found out, especially like in my city, in Mount Vernon, a lot of the people, the stakeholders, the elected officials, everybody really has one goal. Everybody really wants to see the city move forward and be better. Where we differ is how we go about it. And sometimes I think my way is better than yours, and you think your way is better than mine. And sometimes I don't hear you because I think my way is better. You understand what I'm saying? And I don't know what the answer is to that, but I know it's something collectively. And again, this conversation is for the greater audience. We're having it in Greenburgh because of the article that just ran about questioning racism in Greenburgh. But we need to do this. And once we can get our communities together, we can help build and support other communities throughout the county. You know what I'm saying? That may need our help getting it together. But we can't do anything until we get it together ourselves. Nobody is going to do it for us. Answering many of the questions and comments, I would definitely agree to doing a part 2 of the show. What I do not want to do is have this same conversation again. I think we have to come at it with maybe more solution oriented things. What have we done since this? What have we done since this? Like if we're still talking about the same thing, there's no need to do a 2 or 3 or 4. You know what I'm saying? It really, like, why are we going to keep having the same conversation? I have a low attention span in meetings like this. I'm gonna be honest, because after a certain point, I've heard it all before. I'm not trying to hear it again. I'm at a point where that sounds good. Let's see what it looks like, and I think that's where our community is. They've heard from our NAACPs. They've heard from organizations like that. They've heard from our elected officials that look like us and don't look like us. They heard from our activists. But at this point, it's like, yo, let's see. That sounds good. Let's see what it looks like. I would hope that maybe y'all get together, y'all and including others, maybe, you know, without me, and have some behind the scenes dialogue. You know what I'm saying? And maybe, you know, come up with some action items on your own on what y'all can do in your community, and then get the community involved. But I will definitely be in touch with doing a part 2, you know, in a month or so or later. You know what I'm saying? And at that point, I would like to talk about what have we done since and what do we still have to do, not have this same conversation, because then we're just having conversations for the sake of having conversations. I thank all of you for your time. I tell everybody I've had a lot of money. I've spent money. I lost money. I'll make money again. But time is the one thing that I've never been able to get back. So I thank you all for your time. I thank everybody for tuning in. You could be doing anything else right now, but you decide to ride with us, and we greatly appreciate it. This has been Black Westchester Presents, the People Before Politics radio show. We're on every Sunday, 6 to 8, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn now. That's the latest one. I will edit this to just this part of the show that y'all are on, the second hour, so people can see just that. You know, we can get this. Anybody who wants to partake in the conversation can always send me an email, blackwestchester@gmail.com. And let's roll up our sleeves. Let's get the work done. Let's get it done. Like, and anything Black Westchester can do to help, please. Y'all know how to contact me. I'm probably the easiest person to find online. So thank you all. Greatly appreciate y'all. And with that, until next time, peace.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
You are now tuned into the People Before Politics radio show, brought to you by the good folks at
Black Westchester. Black Westchester. Black Westchester.
talk for the community since 2014.